Let's go. I don't know if you can let Ed Orgeron coach the final few games. You owe it to the guys in the locker room to come up with a better game plan. Okay? We're going to talk about Garrett Nussmeier, but guess what? This channel is all about you guys. I want to start this live stream off with our most dedicated viewer, Jared. Gonna have his first little grandchild, of course. Shout out to you, Jared. And shout out to all for chatter. You guys know how it works. Venmo, Cash App, Super Chat, get your question to the front of the line. Pretty simply put, Ed Orgeron is so bad. Like, I just don't even know where to start. And I don't understand why Ed Orgeron is never asked about the specific game plan. Why on earth did we think what we did defensively was going to work? And I know a lot of y'all want to, of course, what's up, Johnny? It's been a while since we've seen Johnny 5. Good stuff. I do agree with this. I thought the team played well. Now, obviously, what you guys want to talk about is not only the head coaching vacancy, but also Garrett Nussmeier. So, obviously, we're going to do a poll question a little bit later as far as Garrett Nussmeier potentially being the new starter. But the bottom line is the bottom line. I know we are so focused on the future, and I know we are so focused on who the next head coach will be, but you owe it to the guys in the locker room to coach better. We are punting on 4th and 1 down 17. Really? 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 Every game is so precious. There are guys out there giving it their all right now. And they're being coached by someone who is not going to be the coach for the future. It is time to pull his headset. Don't even let him coach the games left on the schedule. You can't do that. You owe it to the guys in the locker room to not play man coverage underneath. You can't run that defense versus Ole Miss. They did it versus Florida, and they torched us in the second half as well. You can't do it. You simply can't do it. And the only reason we got back into the game late was Ole Miss's defense let up, and Garrett Nussmeier, of course, provided some really positive energy. Okay? So obviously, who is your number one candidate? I understand this is being brought up a bunch. Mike Tomlin. I saw Johnny say Mike Tomlin as well. Guys, I'm guessing the rumor started with Ryan Clark on Matt Moscona's radio show. And I think, and even Ryan Clark said he has no inside information. Let me just go ahead and say Mike Tomlin is never going to leave the best, most prestigious head coaching job in the NFL to go back to the college game and recruit. So yes, Trey wants to talk about coaching and Nuss. I just don't understand it. The reason why, and everyone wants to talk about everything else regarding Ed Orgeron. But you know what one national media member has failed to mention? That it was the change to this horrendous defensive scheme. It is historically bad. Not bad, historically bad. Okay? Where we gave up 6.4 yards per play again. Again. Okay? I just don't understand it. I just don't understand it. Okay? The guys in the locker room that actually fight deserves the fighting chance. Okay? Ole Miss has not blown anybody out this year. They've not blown anybody out. They haven't. They haven't. They blew out Louisville in week 1. Tennessee showed fight. It was a close game. Arkansas on that same field showed fight. Thank you for providing us all a chance to vent and discuss. I don't know what I'd do if I didn't have no one to talk to about this game. Thank you for choosing my post-game live stream. There's a lot of really talented people that do LSU post-game, but you choose me. Thank you so much, Rai. We appreciate it. So, yes, Damon has definitely got to be the defensive MVP. He's probably the MVP of the team, to be honest, especially now that Kayshawn's hurt. And Cade York missed a kick today. I thought for sure he'd make the 55-yarder. But, okay, William, I want to discuss this. Obviously, we got to be honest about Garrett Nussmeier. You know, these touchdowns were garbage time, but he did play better than Max. So, should Nuss start versus Alabama? We'll get to that a little bit later. But, people, we're missing the big story here. Okay, I know a lot of you want Mike Tomlin to be the coach. This started with one of his former players, okay, who is really close to Mike Tomlin. I know this because Ryan Clark would fly down to Baton Rouge when he was still with the Steelers to go to LSU's pro day with Mike Tomlin, okay? The Mike Tomlin stuff is not going to happen. He is one of the best NFL coaches of the modern era. Pittsburgh is never going to let him go. And I have no idea why he would leave the NFL as one of the best coaches in the NFL to go back down to the college game. I would like to see it. I think everyone would like to see it. It's just not going to happen. But LSU's number one candidate was on the other sideline. How could people not see how great Lane Kiffin is? It never ceases to amaze me. Okay, Black OT, we're going to try and get something together for the Arkansas game, but Haley and I will be there. So, yeah, I want to. I'm just trying to figure out our ticket situation and getting logistics and everything, but I will be at the game. We'll talk about that on the Tuesday night live stream. We're still trying to schedule something. So, I just don't understand why Lane Kiffin, who is a college coach, by the way, Mike Tomlin, who is one of the best coaches in the NFL, why would he leave the NFL? Okay. So we'll see. Ed Orgeron's now at the podium. I'm sure the media is going to ask him specific questions about coverages because that's all I want to ask. All I want to ask is, why did you play man coverage the entire game against a very exotic play caller? It doesn't make any sense. It does not make any sense unless Durante thought that was going to work. I said it was stupid to fire him and keep him. It doesn't make any sense. Why is he coaching the game? I know someone tweeted this out. I think it was Ralph. He covers the Saints. I don't know how to pronounce his last name. He said they should have a celebrity guest coach for the final four games. Why not? Why not? John Goodman would coach better. Tyrann Mathieu, call somebody to coach this team. I really do mean it. He is that bad. You can't, it's a simple concept. It's not even about knowing football. It's just simple sports gamesmanship. You don't do the same thing all game. They do this in volleyball. They do this in cricket. They do this in every single sport. Tennis, whatever the sport may be. You don't run the same defense. You don't. You don't run the same four-man rush. You don't never blitz. You don't do these things. You don't do these things. You do something different, right? Right? Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, the sky hook was great, but that's not the only thing he did. Okay? Every great athlete does something different. Every great coach does something different. You can't run man coverage, one high principles all game. You just can't do it. You can't do simple four-man rush without twisting and stunting and blitzing. The game is too complex. Let Blake Baker coach. Let somebody else. Let Corey Raymond do it. Let somebody else. I'm telling you, I am begging I'm begging for John Chavis to come back. I am begging. We have I just don't believe so, Carvis. I just don't believe so. Mike Zimmer, who has a very big blitz package in Minnesota, and by the way, they did play a 4-man front in Minnesota. There's no way Durante's calling this defense. He might call the plays, but there's just no way. There's no way a rational human being thinks that this works. There's no way. There's no way. Let Shaquille O'Neal come coach. Think of a famous Louisiana celebrity, Lynn Whitfield. Let Lynn Whitfield coach. Let Addison Rae coach. Let John Goodman coach. Think of a Louisiana celebrity. Let him or her coach the team right now. Let anybody. It doesn't matter. Bug Strong, we got to see Mike Jones there at the end. I don't know. Let somebody coach. So let's talk about the offense. By the way, Venmo, Cash App, Super Chats. Let's see. Not to burst your bubble, but they got the control. They took the controller away from Ed after the Kentucky game. Go back and look. The mouthpiece off his headset is not even near his mouth. That still doesn't mean you're not calling something, right? I don't know what the streamline. I just think what would be very interesting is if someone. Now, I kind of want to go to Baton Rouge and do this myself. Someone goes to a coach, and I would just like a specific breakdown of how the communication during the game works, okay? Who sends who the play call, who actually calls the shots, how do you make the game plan on a week-by-week basis, okay? Now, I spoke to a high school defensive coordinator about this. He used to coach at the college game. I spoke to a high school defensive coordinator about this 2 weeks ago, okay? And he said it's simple. In the second half of games, especially when you know you're going up against an elite play caller, you have to have a different set of defenses, okay? Not only were we going up against an elite play caller, we're going up against the Heisman favorite at quarterback, okay? It is a monstrosity to think that you can do what didn't work in the first half in for the second half, okay? It's simple. It's simple, okay? Just let somebody, it doesn't matter, okay? Let Biscuit coach. Let CZ Beasley coach, okay? Bam about 35. Let Drew Brees. I mean, let somebody. And I know I'm supposed to be looking towards the future, okay? And I know the guy who is across the sideline is my number one candidate to coach. I actually did sit down and watch this James Franklin game from earlier, and I know it's just one game, and I've always said this, don't overreact to one single game, but James Franklin coached about as bad of a game I think you could see earlier today. So I do not want him to be the next head coach. I probably overreacted a little bit to what he did at Vanderbilt, but you should never lose to that Illinois team. That James Franklin lost to an Illinois team at home down to their backup quarterback who, by the way, their coach, Illinois' coach, crapped all over his own players this week in a press conference. His own players, and he still won. Okay? I am out on James Franklin. Okay? I am out. Okay? I am out. But we'll talk about other head coaching candidates a little bit later. So, Kevin Gates on special teams. Okay? So, we'll talk about Max Johnson's performance today. Obviously, and we'll look at Ed Orgeron's quotes in just a second. I don't know how much you guys want to actually look at that, but we will try our best. Okay. So let's take a look at the final stats here. And as you can see here, this was not great at all. Okay. As you see, Max Johnson, 13 of 21, 146. The interception wasn't really an interception. He had to throw it on 4th down, but it was a pick, to be honest. Ty Davis Price, 17 for 53. We just kind of got off script a little bit. The game just got out of hand. It really did. Jake Peets was also not great today at all. His play calling was very clunky. Ed Orgeron ripped into it. I just think that kind of deflated the team as well. So as you see here, this is not great. But this is where the issues lie right here with Snoop Connor, Jerry O'Neely, Parrish. They all just ran all over us. And Matt Corral didn't even have that great of a game. 18 to 23, 185 and a touchdown, and we still lose. Then you look to the far right here. Let's go ahead and scroll down just a little bit. This is what I've been talking about for so long, okay? LSU, okay? You can go back and look at my Twitter. When LSU was up by 7-0, this is the issue right here. These middle quarters, okay? You notice LSU under Ed Orgeron has been a chaotic second quarter team and a really bad third quarter team, okay? We had some window dressing there at the end. It was really bad, okay? I would bet money that Woodward will not hire Kiffin. Very interesting. Let me see. Oh, crap. I didn't have this in the screen. Okay, let's see here. We're on pace to play Clemson in the Cheez-Its Bowl. That would be very interesting. So I want to talk about this with Esteban. I'm actually going to defend the LSU defense, okay? The problem was all that titty bumping, arm reaching tackles they were doing instead of running through the ball carrier. Okay, so remember last week when we were playing Florida, we tackled overall fine, right? What was the difference today? Well, number one, we are more tired. This was our 8th consecutive game, and we were on the road. But the second thing is, once again, I know I keep going back to this, but when you play man coverage underneath, and Lane Kiffin knows that, he's going to keep running drag routes, okay? And he's going to run his running backs out on flare routes. So what does that do? It tires you out like nothing else, okay? If you've played linebacker or in the secondary, you know how tiring man coverage can be against spread teams. They will run you ragged, right? So that's where I think some of the issues were. Once again, Esteban, that doesn't absolve them of their arm tackling issues today, but I can't really put that entirely on the LSU defense. You've got to have a better game plan to help them out. I can't get over how inexplicable it is that you did exactly what we thought we were going to do. Especially considering we have the rush 3, drop 8 principles in our playbook. On those long draw plays, if we would have done rush 3, drop 8, they wouldn't have got them because we would have more fast guys on the field. But Lane Kiffin knows we rush aggressively through the same pass rushing lanes every time. So those handoffs underneath are brutal because automatically you're going to have an offensive lineman going to the second level, getting clean blocks. It's lunacy to keep doing what we're doing. Okay. So, and this is it. Our defense has played too many plays. They've created turnovers and won games. We haven't seen our offense dominate outside of TDP having a great game versus Florida. Exactly. I'm going to defend the defense here with the arm tackling. They just didn't have a shot today. And I know that isn't the answer that a lot of people want to hear, but I got to show sympathy to the guys that actually were on the field and playing. You can't run them ragged, especially when you had a chaotic game last week against Florida where they did the same thing. I know we won the game, but we wouldn't have won the game had Jaquelin Roy had not forced those 2 interceptions. And I know I've pointed out Jaquelin Roy 1,000 times in those 2 interceptions, but that's the only reason we got stops because guess what? Dan Mullen did the same exact thing last week. Okay. Garrett Nussmeier's QB1. What's up, Tomcat? Tomcat, rocks his PHL shirt. I love it, man. Let's see. Big Allen here. Good to see you. Our offense killed our defense as well. And remember this, college football is an offensive game. Max Johnson was not great today. Our offensive line, once again, it just doesn't travel. Our O-line was bad versus Mississippi State. Our offensive line was beyond atrocious versus UCLA. And our offensive line was really bad today. And don't get me started on the Kentucky game, okay? Let's see. Belichick is next LSU coach. Yeah, I agree with this overall, Alan. But I would say more that the way LSU runs their 4-3 is outdated. Now, don't get it twisted. The offensive side of the ball is a more important side of the ball, and that's probably the bigger reason why we lost this game. But I cannot say it enough how bad this defensive scheme is. It gives you zero shot to win games unless you get a few lucky pick sixes and your offense is clicking, okay? But if your offense is just kind of meh, you have no shot at winning. You have zero shot, okay? And look, let's see. I've never seen a defense get beat to the outside so much. And right out the top, King Ulysses, you saw it first play of the game. They ran a jet sweep to Mason Smith's side, and they broke contain easily. And that's not really even on Mason Smith. It's just a flaw. Missouri did that to us a lot last year. Florida did that to us. Ole Miss did it to us last year as well. The fact that we thought what today was going to work is lunacy. It's guys that are getting cut millions and millions of dollars check. I mean, really, I promise you, high school defensive coaches would have had a better game plan than today. Carter, did we win? Asking for a friend. Okay. Let's see. I see purple and have the screen as big as it goes. Oh, is it me? Do we look okay? Let me see. I think we look okay. As big as it goes. Yeah, I'm looking at the stream stuff. Let's see. There's a busted play on defense every play, but Max is inept at QB, compounds it. You know what we have to do? I've been saying it. Okay. Bottom line is whether why blow Nuss's red shirt for a wasted year? Keep Max in. So Nuss up to this point has played today, played versus McNeese, played versus Central Michigan, and that's it. So he's got 3 games so far, unless I'm missing something else. What changes, if anything, if we have all our starters for this game? In your opinion, C? That's a good question, JJ. So obviously, Kayshawn won us this game last year, so it's hard to really say because I thought today we did lack some serious separation on the outside. But we made some big time catches, and Jack Besh had a huge drop in the first half that obviously hurt big time. But if we have all our starters for this game, so does Derek Stingley or Elias Ricks change this game all that much? Honestly, JJ, I just don't think so. I really don't, and I know that sounds crazy considering how good of a player Eli Ricks and Derek Stingley is. But you saw this versus UCLA with worse, and UCLA is not as good as Ole Miss. When you go, an elite play caller is going to do this, right? It's like a boxer who doesn't defend against a jab. I know I use that analogy at halftime. If they know you're going to play man, they're going to tire you out. Okay. Remember versus UCLA, Derek Stingley missing some tackles late in that game. It's because he was tired. It's hard to keep doing that over and over again. The defensive scheme is so bad. I don't know if this is Durante's defense. All I know is the head coach has the power to say, hey, let's run some zone. Hey, let's go some three-man front. Let's do some rush three, drop eight principles. Let's blitz Sage Ryan off the edge, which, by the way, there were some opportunities to do that exact same thing, but we don't use them. And he is a really elite athlete. I just don't know. I just don't think anything changes. I really don't. I really don't. The LSU offensive line wasn't as good as they have been. I thought TDP was fine overall. He was able to get what he can get. Honestly, Max Johnson he's banged up, obviously. One really good switch their defense made. And Ole Miss has a really good defensive line coach, Joyner. One thing they really did a good job of was once they saw LSU's offensive line starting to get bullied around, what they would do is they would rush three guys because they were getting home with three. Max was playing really slow. And to add extra confusion, they would run a QB spy, which is something I thought LSU could have done today as well. Because last year, Matt Corral ran for a career-high yardage versus LSU. So the one way you defend that, and this is how LSU defended it late last year, which won them the game, is by having a QB spy ready to go. But that's ironically what Ole Miss did today, JJ. They actually had their linebackers spy late on Max Johnson. And Max is not that juicy of a quarterback when he breaks the pocket. He's not a dual threat quarterback. There is no threat with his legs. He runs a little soft. It's a little slow, and he's just not a difference maker with his legs the same way Joe Burrow or Matt Corral is a difference maker. Now, we're not asking him to be a plus runner like a Caleb Williams or John Rice Plumlee or anyone like that, but Max's inability to run compounds his issues, right? So it's tough. Max is definitely a part of the problem, okay? I wouldn't say Max is a problem, but he's definitely part of the problem. Here's a good question here. Robert, is this your first time in the live chat? Let me know. I want to make you feel welcome, my guy. With Brad Davis, if you are a new coaching staff coming in, our line has been trashed for years. I don't know. It's just so tough to say with Brad, especially considering how good the offensive line played last week. I thought Anthony Bradford today just wasn't ready to go. And he was just, in particular, not that great. Once again, I always say this, Robert. If you are new, we do film studies. Once again, tomorrow night's film study, 7 p.m. Central. We do a live film study. I don't like to judge the offensive line until I get a rewatch because it's too tough to keep up with each and every offensive lineman during the course of a game. So we'll see. You're regular? Okay, good. Good to see you, man. So yeah, it's tough. Coach O told you he was fast. Yeah, we'll see. At least Nuss is decisive. Yeah, I agree with that to a certain degree. But yeah, Max is really slow at this progressions. Look at that. I'm under the impression now that the coordinator hires were crap. Yeah, Cliff, this was as bad as Durante was. I still, once again, I just have a tough time thinking this is his defense. There's no way you go from the NFL coaching under Mike Zimmer to running what we ran today. But Jake Peetz was not great today. I thought Jake was a little indecisive at times. I thought they got away with, and I'm not an established run kind of guy. I thought they got away from it a little too early. Also today, and I brought this up in my LSU Ole Miss preview yesterday, LSU's offensive line was bad last year versus Ole Miss. They just weren't good, and they struggled again against Ole Miss. I don't know what it is. Once again, I go back to Ole Miss. They have a really underrated defensive line coach, Joyner, but they were really active right? Our route combinations. What's up, Max? Max, thank you. Max and Prez, thank you guys always for supporting with the super chats. Our route combinations were abysmal, especially on 3rd down. The offensive line is just bad. The defensive game plan was trash. Yeah, Ray Darius Jones had some good snaps. I would agree with that. Let's see. So let's start with the offensive line. Yeah, they weren't good today. It was kind of ironic because I don't know how many times we ran counter today. And ironically, Ole Miss's defense showed the ability to make mistakes against Tennessee when they were going up against pulling guards. Okay. Our route combinations were abysmal, especially on 3rd down. I thought the route combinations coming out of half on LSU's first 3rd down was some of the most baffling route combinations I've ever seen. They ran 2 slant routes. I think it was Dre and somebody else. And they were so close together, the spacing did seem off. Now, I always say this, route combinations are really tough to decipher during the game, especially with the broadcast angle. But yeah, there were some route combinations. And I also think, Max, this was the first game. Ironic, this was the first game because it wasn't a big deal versus Florida. This was the first game where not having Kayshawn really, really, really hurt. So, yeah. Joshua says, what happened between last week and this week? It's like a whole new team was on the field. Yeah, LSU's not a good road team. They really haven't been under Ed Orgeron. Even in 2019, the defensive road performances were far worse. LSU gave up 30 points 4 times in 2019, and all 4 of those times came in true road games. So yeah, there was only one true road game in 2019 where they gave up less than 30, and that was to a true freshman, Garrett Schrader. Then in 2020, you saw how bad our defense was on the road, and then this year we've been way worse on the road compared to home. So yeah, I think that's part of it. Also, it's just I know I keep saying this over and over. But when the coaching is that bad, we're just wasting this season. We're wasting it. Counter only worked well once out of 6 times, and it was when Connor cut it backside. Yeah, Mo Funky, I tend to agree with you on a lot. I'd have to go back and rewatch it. And I think that's what Ole Miss said. Ole Miss said, look, we're going to stop counter, and we're going to see if you could beat us. And, obviously that didn't work. Also, Max not having a deep ball really was an issue today, JJ. It really was. Trey, we'll see you. Some positivity. I love it, Dan. Positive thoughts. So let's actually inject some positive thoughts. What were some positives from today's game? Okay, if there were any. Damon Clark had another great game. I thought BTJ had another great game. Jack Besh had another great game. Dre Jenkins had another solid game. So yeah, I guess it's a positive. Also, Marcus Dumerville coming in late provided some good snaps. Today was his best game at right guard. I thought Marlon Martinez regressed some compared to his performance from last week. Once again, we'll go deeper into it on the film study. Defensively, once again, I just think, man, I don't know. I don't know where to start defensively. Damon Clark had another good game. I know I said that already. And Ed Orgeron made the worst. You guys that were actually in the chat during the second half, Ed Orgeron's punt decision on 4th and 1 when we are down by 17. I don't care if you're on your own 20. You got to go for it. You've got to go for it. We're down 17. We're not stopping them. And they got the football and drove it down for a touchdown. What are we doing? Yeah, once again, Ole Miss is really well coached in the front seven. And you brought that up at halftime too, Mo Funky. That's good stuff. Yeah, I do too, Robert. I more so miss the unpredictableness of the LSU defense, right? The one thing, even though Chavis was not so great, even out of a four-man front, he would go 3-2-6 sometimes, and even out of his four-man looks, he would give you a bunch of different pressures, right? We had going into this week, and I guarantee you today did not change anything. We were the lowest blitz percentage team in the country. Now, why would you do that when you have the athletes that we have, right? Yeah, go for it on 4th and goal from the 3, which I was fine with. I'm an aggressive person on 4th down anyway. I was kind of sort of fine with that decision. But then to punt the football on 4th and 1, that is up there with one of the worst punts I've ever seen. And Ed Orgeron has got quite a few of them. Let's see. My son played today and almost ran one back. His team lost, but still looked better. What's up, Caden and Kareem? Good to see you. That's why I want Lane Kiffin to be the next coach. He's not afraid to go for it. And Lane Kiffin will go for it. We'll talk about recruiting a little bit later. But obviously, it doesn't matter if you have Tyrann Mathieu, Devin White out there. Today's scheme wouldn't have worked with anybody. I'm dead serious. It would not have worked with anybody. You can't do that because you're running your guys ragged. You can't do it. And when you're sprinting across the field as much as LSU was today, you're going to wear down. Okay, it's going to feel like you're doing this and it's useless. Okay, Nuss, I think LSU is? Will LSU still go bowling? Okay, so right now they're at 4-4. Okay, so let's change up the poll question. This is interesting. Is Lane Kiffin your number one candidate? 60% of you said no. Lane Kiffin is not your number one candidate. Okay. How would Lane Kiffin's team work defensively? That would be the big question mark. But they would be better than what we saw today. Okay. Let's go to Ronnie. Tom Manning or Dan Lanning for head coach? Okay, we'll talk some head coaching rumors right now. Okay. Who would like Dan Lanning, the Georgia defensive coordinator, as the next head coach? Okay. Who would like Dan Lanning? Okay, Grant, to answer your super chat, guess what? Since you've been my friend for quite some time, Grant is one of the few viewers I've gotten to meet because we were really good friends in college. Tiger TV, stand up. Grant, you get to have your question answered in poll format. Okay, let me go ahead and answer this again as far as Mike Tomlin is concerned. Travis, once again, can't say it enough. Mike Tomlin is not going to leave one of the most prestigious jobs in professional sports, which is the head coach of the Pittsburgh Steelers, where you have the best ownership in professional sports, okay, with the best franchise, arguably in the NFL, is the Pittsburgh Steelers. So definitely in the top 5, right? He's simply not going to leave the Steelers to go to an LSU head coaching job, which is a 24/7 recruiting job. Mike Tomlin is a disciplined players kind of guy. Let players be their own man. Well, in recruiting, that is not the case. You have to beg kids to come to your school. I just don't think that Mike Tomlin would want to do that. Okay. And I know his name's going to get brought up the most because he is, obviously a future Hall of Fame coach, but I just don't see that happening. Now, based on what we know right now, look, this is obviously a weird situation because the Steelers are going through things right now with Big Ben. But I think what the Steelers are going to do this offseason is go get a big QB in free agency. They obviously had the receivers that would be a destination a lot of quarterbacks would go to. And obviously a lot of quarterbacks would like to play for a Super Bowl winning head coach. So I just don't see Mike Tomlin. Now, Tom Manning is interesting simply because he is not the head coach of Iowa State, kind of like Dan Lanning. Tom Manning, I don't know why you would go for Tom Manning with Matt Campbell right there, right? So I think, Dan Lanning has a head coach who's not going to leave his job for anybody, where Matt Campbell himself, let me ask you this, Ronnie. Would you rather Tom Manning or Matt Campbell? Okay. Would you rather Tom Manning or Matt Campbell? You can hire a great recruiter, and you're right about that. And LSU recruits on its own as well, right, Johnny? But the issue also is you have to do some recruiting. Trust me, in the NFL, where you get to deal with adults and you don't have to recruiting. You want to know what recruiting is? Recruiting, in essence, is nagging, right? You're basically begging teenagers, okay, to come to your school, okay? A lot of coaches view that act as something that is not even football related, which it isn't. Recruiting is college football is the only level of football where you do this, right? Now, obviously, there's some begging when it comes to free agency, but once again, you're dealing with adults and agents and all kinds of different people in that aspect. I just don't think any NFL coach, I really do believe this. I don't think any NFL coach or any elite NFL offensive coordinator is going to want to become the head coach of LSU, okay? So Carvis wants to see if Nuss should finish the year, okay? Let's start with this, okay? How many of you want Max Johnson to start versus Alabama, okay? Type Y for yes, type in for no. Max Johnson. How many of you think Max Johnson, okay? Miranda's not a recruiter either. I agree with that. That's not a strong suit either. But at least he is somewhat used to it. And trust me, I'd be thrilled if Mike Tomlin was the coach. I just don't think I'm telling you, if I was the head coach of the Steelers, as much as I love LSU, I just don't know if I want to leave the best professional ownership to go from there to LSU, where you're not only dealing with one owner, you're dealing with board of regents, boosters. There's so much schmoozing and political campaigning that you have to do as a head coach of LSU. What's up, Eric? Good to see you, man. What he says, yes. Okay. So let me ask you this. It looks as if most of you want looks as if most of you want Nuss. Okay. Let's see here. Let me finish up Ronnie's super chat here. Tom is a smart hire because we can open up the offense. Dan is the right hire because I'm tired of watching our defense just get obliterated by offenses. Remember the days where LSU was pissed about a field goal? Yeah. I mean, once again, I think though, as far as a defensive-minded coach is concerned, I just think that there's other guys I'd be more interested in. Two defensive guys that I would be more interested in is obviously Dave Aranda Mel Tucker, I would probably prefer over Dan Lanning. So yeah, obviously, and Mel Tucker also is going to run the same defense Dan Lanning's running as well. So yeah, let me see. Not a fan of left-handed quarterbacks. I love it, man. But yeah, today and today alone, I am out on James Franklin. I am out. There were so many things that infuriated me about the Illinois game from earlier today that made no sense. And when I initially put James Franklin in my top three, I've always just been so enamored by what he did at Vanderbilt. I mean, look, today was just so bad. I went in with high hopes, right? Today was one of the few times that I actually sat down and watched a decent amount of that of a Penn State game, and I'm just out. I'm just out. If James Franklin ended up being the coach, I'd be fine with it. But today, yeah, I mean, there's. You can't lose. And then more I read into some of the Title IX stuff from Vanderbilt. I'm just out. I was kind of sort of out to begin with, but I still listed him in my top three because he does have major Power 5 coaching experience. He has won a decent amount at Penn State. Obviously, he's won in the SEC. He's obviously extremely talented at building a staff and building a culture and getting people to buy in. But today, if he ended up being the LSU coach, I'd be perfectly fine with it. But this was not good. I mean, Penn State looked like a true cluster, you know what. Yeah, Franklin was my number one until about 3 hours ago. And I know it's just one game, and I'm overreacting to just one game. And I'm going to regret saying, James Franklin is out of my top three because I do think really highly of him as a football coach. But Told you about James Franklin. Yeah, he's probably still in my top 5, but he's no longer at number 2. You don't lose. Trust me, as an LSU fan, we lost enough to Brett Bielema. But anyway, we'll get back to talking about Garrett Nussmeier. Okay, once again, if you super chat, we'll talk about anything, right? So Dan Lanning, this is LSU, right? I know the last 3 coaches that LSU hired didn't have some extensive resume, but at least 2 of them had some head coaching experience prior, right? I'd be fine with this. This would probably be somewhere close to my top 4. Let's see. I wonder if Miles even wants to play at this point. So let me ask you this. How many of you, if Miles Brennan is ready to go for the Bama game, which he wouldn't, would you rather play Miles over Nuss versus Alabama? Okay. Hot take, Napier is my number 1. Even though Billy Napier winning by 1 against a 1-5 Arkansas State team was also not great. So up to this point, ironically, out of everyone on our candidates list, or on my candidates list, Mel Tucker obviously had a bye week, but James Franklin, not a great showing. Billy Napier, not a great showing. The only coach who had an awesome showing was the guy who coached against LSU today. Okay? Mel Tucker's your number 1 right now. Yeah, once again, I did a video on Mel last week. I'd be fine with it. I just don't think he's leaving. I just don't. I think that Michigan State job is a great job. Lots of security. Billionaires are funding that program. Michigan State has some really deep pockets. And I know LSU does as well, But James Franklin's in the Big Ten. Are you scared of James Franklin? Not really, if you're Mel Tucker. Are you scared of Ohio State and Ryan Day? Yeah, Ohio State's a better program than you, but that's about it. I mean, Michigan State has a pretty clear path to being the number 2 team in the Big Ten, right? Do you want to uproot and go to Baton Rouge where the expectations are higher? Look, Michigan State does kind of sort of have some Clemson type of vibes to it, right? I think Mel Tucker can not win college football playoffs, but I think he can get to college football playoffs at Michigan State, right? Billionaire owners, athletic director he gets along with, that he likes a lot. I just don't know if he leaves that job. He's already the 13th highest paid coach, and he's loved there. If you go to LSU and you're not winning 10 games within the first 2 years, they're going to want you out of town, right? Moscona said Woodward sent out a big number to agents, and that's what sparked Tomlin's interest. Sure. I would love to see Mike Tomlin on LSU sidelines. Man, if I was Mike Tomlin, I just don't know if I leave the freaking Steelers when, once again, he's so close. I mean, he's one of those fringe Pro Football Hall of Fame coaches, right? He's probably got to win a few more games and he's probably going to be in there. He might already be in there. I don't know. So we'll see. So let's take a look. We do this for every live chat. And there's not a whole lot of Orgeron quotes tweeted out. God. Let's see. Go Vols. Graylin, what's good, man? Graylin, we're meeting up here in a few weeks, man, in Baton Rouge. Let's see. Miles over Nuss? Huh? Ah. What if LSU pulls a Cold War Reagan on Alabama and offers Saban $15 million? Either Bama gives Saban a raise or we get Saban. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I think Tomlin would adjust to the coaching aspect and the actual coaching of football aspect. Fine. Once again, it's just so different. It is so unbelievably different to go from the NFL to college. Once again, I'd like to see it. It would be one of the most interesting hires in the history of football, really, especially considering the franchise he's leaving, right? So once again, the Steelers, I mean, there's not many better jobs than that. If that was a job interview, how did Lane do? He was great. Aggressive on fourth down, took what the defense gave him. Once again, what they did wasn't really all that complex, right? He attacked the same way he attacked us last year. The main reason we won that game last year was Matt Corral played like trash, or he was very erratic. And we had Kayshawn, right? That guy, that guy's really good. Okay. I think that's something we learned today. Kayshawn Butte is really good at football, right? Let's see. With Tomlin, we play FSU to start 2022. We would win 49-7. Once again, I would love to see it. me look at this really quickly. I mean, look, he might already be in the Pro Football Hall of Fame with his resume. There's a lot of Pro Football Hall of Fame coaches with one Super Bowl title. Okay, Dungy only has one title. He's in. Cowher only has one title. He's in. And him and Tomlin have pretty much the exact same resume, right? Regular season record, pretty impressive, 146, 79, and 1. And that's in the division with the Ravens. He was also coaching when the Bengals were good. And the Browns were bad, but still, that's a pretty good record. It helped having Big Ben, but once again, I will say this about Mike Tomlin, though. He does have some really bad playoff losses. That playoff loss to the Browns last year was really bad. It didn't help that his center on the first play of the game threw it into the stands, basically, on the first play. But Mike Tomlin did have some really bad punt decisions versus the Browns last year in that playoff game. But yeah, once again, yeah, I think Tomlin's already. Yeah, I agree. I think he's pretty much in there. I don't know though how much going to LSU would change his Pro Football Hall of Fame legacy. But there's so many coaches once again that's in there with just one Super Bowl, right? I remember when Max first started, he had the threat of his legs. Wonder what happened. Yeah, I don't. It's kind of hard to say, right? I think Joshua, the truth more so is Max wasn't ever really dangerous with his legs. How many times have you seen him scramble for a first down when you really need it? You just, it doesn't happen a whole lot, right? So, it's just one of those things. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. Never take the foot off the gas pedal. Man, we could have beat old Piss. That's true, KO. The issue though, man, I don't know how good of a football team Ole Miss is. I really don't. Like, they're really good. They're really well coached, especially on the offensive side of the ball. They don't commit stupid penalties. So yeah. Fields. Why Max doesn't run? It's a good question. I just don't think he can. And honestly, I don't think Nuss is necessarily a plus athlete as a runner. I think there were some opportunities in today's game where he could have. I know I saw at least one where he could have tucked it and ran it, but it's tough, right? So yeah, I think some of it is Matt Corral's just a better athlete. Ole Miss had 10 plus penalties. Did they have 10 plus penalties? Let me see. I don't see. We got a comparison. Penalties. I can't. Why doesn't it say penalties on the StatCast? Walker Howard. Now Walker Howard is a plus athlete. We lost for a minute on the goal line going on 4th and goal to go up by 14. How many of you thought LSU should have kicked the field goal there? Okay. How many of you thought LSU should have kicked the field goal in that spot? Eric, they switched things up. I think LSU was smart to go for it there. To beat Ole Miss, you have to score touchdowns. But also, I'll say this. They were LSU has not been the absolute best inside the 5-yard line. Okay. LSU has not been good inside the 5-yard line. And I think there's a few reasons as to why. The first is LSU's offensive line can't really move people. The second is you don't have to account for Max Johnson's running ability inside the 5-yard line. And I think dual threat quarterbacking becomes a bigger plus in the red zone when the field compresses. I also don't think Jake Peetz is a good play caller inside the 5-yard line. You know, the play call to win the game last week against Dre was a good one. I probably would have tried to run that play. But yeah, I probably would have kicked the field goal. That's where, I would go against analytics right there simply because the numbers say go for it, right? The numbers say go for it. And I am typically an aggressive fourth down guy, but knowing LSU's issues inside the 5-yard line, especially considering they were on the 3, I probably would have kicked it. Would you start Nuss over Max against Alabama? You know what, Big Al? I'm actually going to say no, right? I am going to be that guy. I still think Max should start versus Alabama. Number one, Max had one of his higher QBRs last year in the mop-up duty versus Alabama. So he played well against Alabama last year. The number two thing is I don't like any true freshman quarterbacks first start to ever be against Alabama. Now, ironically, I remember Arkansas had a true freshman who his first start was against Alabama, and that was Brandon Allen, who is currently Joe Burrow's backup with the Bengals. So, and Brandon Allen turned out to be a really good starting quarterback for Arkansas. So, once again, I don't think it would ruin Garrett Nussmeier, but it can. I just don't think a true freshman start versus Alabama is the best. I think the best case scenario would be to start him versus ULM. Now, I think what could be the best thing, Big Al, for all parties involved, and I actually still do believe this to be true, if I was Miles Brennan, I would get healthy and try to play this year. Try your best to play this year right now, okay? You would lose your chance for a medical red shirt, but I would still try and play. I mean, you put so much into LSU football now. So, yeah, why not? Max didn't have the arm strength for either of us to call certain plays. I agree with you to a certain extent. I just don't think. Let me see. I'm trying. We were outgained by 150 yards today. Ugh. I still don't think Ole Miss played that well today. I know that sounds crazy. I honestly think we just kind of gave them that game. I really do. Like, okay, you want to know why I don't think Ole Miss played all that well? Because there's no way that Lane Kiffin, who I thought coached a fine game, he was smart to not get too complicated. I just don't think giving up there was 3 double-digit third down conversions Ole Miss had on handoffs today. 3, not 1, not 2, but 3. How do you let that happen 3 times? 3 times. Three times. How many times, guys? How many times? Everyone, please keep Big Al in your thoughts. His wife's been really sick. She's been in the hospital. Just make sure you look out for her. King Robert checked in during halftime. Yeah, Dre did have a critical fumble, and he might have scored. That's a good point. I thought the hold where Ole Miss scored, they called a holding on their left tackle versus BJ Ojolari. I thought it was 50-50, so I thought they got a little unlucky there. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I just the thing that really sucks about it is it's the thing I don't like, right? I just want to be competitive, right? There was no reason that Ole Miss team should have ran us off the field the way that they did today. Okay. There's no way we that should have happened. It shouldn't have happened. Okay. Uh Baby steps are better than no steps at all. You're right about that. Day by day, breath by breath. Let's do it. Mm. No one cares about your Spurs. I'm sorry. The San Antonio Spurs is like the least bit of my interest right now. Okay. The Spurs, all I've heard from Spurs fans this week is Tony Parker and Manu Ginobili should have been in the top 75, which I agree to a certain extent, but still. Say what you will, but Miles Brennan, Max Johnson, Garrett Nussmeier would have barely improved this season. Realistically, Brandon would have probably led LSU this point of the season with 2 to 3 L's. I agree with that, William. I really do. I understand we like to play what ifs. I will say this, okay? I do think Miles Brennan would have won the UCLA game. As bad as our defense was, there were some abysmal misses. And ironically, a lot of the misses that Max Johnson made were just bad misses. Right? Miles broke his elbow before the season. I hope we don't lose during the bye week, but with that coaching staff, who knows? Mm. You know, it's funny. I hope the players, and if there are any players watching this, which I sincerely doubt, and I know you're on a jet back to Ole Miss now. What I would do if I was a player is I would go get hammered. Like, don't even this next weekend, go all out, rage as hard as you've ever raged before. Because right now, with the way that the game plan looked today, I'm not sure if our coaches aren't doing the same thing. Like, you can't think what today was going to work. I hope these players had the most awesome bye week of their lives. You're playing for nothing at this point. Mm. The humorous. I got some thick T-bones, and that's what I'm looking forward to. Well, you enjoy that. Miles would not have won today's game. The defense was too bad for any quarterback to win, right? I think the UCLA game, though, is a little bit different. I really do. Um, but even then, you know, those games were actually kind of similar. We jump out to a 7-0 lead. Then we have some inexcusable mistakes in this. I'm telling you, if LSU just runs some form of different defenses, our whole conversation's different. Okay. But Ole Miss, who has not blown a team out since week 1, I believe, against Louisville, uh, it takes the other team's ineptitude to lose a game the way that we lost today. Also, if I felt bad for someone, I would feel bad for Dan Mullen, who is wondering how in the heck did he make this team look like world beaters. And you know, it's tough. It's tough. Mm. I mean, put Alex Adams at quarterback at this point. We had 3 straight 3 and outs today. JJ, are you doing steaks tonight as well? Mullen gave me false hope today. Yeah. I would more so say Todd Grantham gave you false hope for today. Mullen actually called a pretty good game last week. Oh, it's a steak Saturday in the JJ household. Oh, okay. Yeah. I see what you're saying now, Carvis. Welcome, Calum. The team may play better if Bib Mouth Ed would just leave. Yeah, Ed was so bad today. I just don't. Here's my thing, right? I'm not normally a behind the scenes kind of person. I just kind of just do my own analysis, but I would kill to know what does the LSU defensive meeting room look like? Okay. Do they actually lay out a plan? Do they actually say, okay, the right thing to do versus a Lane Kiffin coach team versus a Chip Kelly coach team versus a Dan Mullen coach team? The right thing to do is to play man coverage. Okay. That's the right thing for us to do against these guys. The entire game. Not Jonathan, what's good? I still have your Applebee's gift card. If it all comes full circle for Ed O, he once stated he got fired at Ole Miss because he went for it on 4th down against Mississippi State. Today he said, "F I'm going down swinging." Yeah, looking back on it, I probably would have kicked the field goal. I get why he went for it. I'm fine with the decision. The worst punt decision, though, or the worst kicking decision was the punt on 4th and 1 down 17. You just can't do that. Goodness gracious. Welcome to the channel, 439 tab. Calling Max a dual threat quarterback is like calling the Titanic a flotation device. I like it. Some sarcasm. That's good stuff. Roby, what's good, man? Lincoln or Lane? As you guys see, this is something else that kind of sucks about not having a close game. Is I told Haley this before. I was like, this is going to be one of our lowest viewed post-game live streams ever because so many people checked out. Okay. I could just tell by Twitter. I could just tell by the text I normally get during the game. Our chat room was pretty fun during the game. Our diehards are here. Okay. But when you're losing, and also the CBS didn't help, their long commercial breaks in a game that you're not going to win and I'm fine with CBS getting their money. I'm fine with a long game. I totally get it. This stuff's very expensive. But, man, dude, today's game was particularly burning because it was such a slow burn, right? And so many people have checked out. Okay. Kareem, that's tough because it comes down to who the head coach will be. I don't view any assistant coach as a non-negotiable, right? Obviously, Corey Raymond's really talented. Mickey Joseph's all those guys are talented. But what today showed you is ultimately, outside of maybe recruiting, the only coaches that really, really move the needle are your head coaches and coordinators when it comes to actual game planning and play calling, right? Your assistants, they do a lot of the recruiting, they do a lot of the individual drills. But yeah, once again, so much comes down to who the head coach is going to be and what type of coordinators they want. Yeah, Max missed Jack quite a few times. And even the drop that Jack had, I got to go back and watch it. I think Max put too much heat on it, if that is possible. It was still a drop, and it still got to be caught by Jack. You see, this is exactly what I'm talking about. Jared's already checked out. He said, I'm going to call my friends over, and I'm going to pay attention to them. Jared, send me a photo of watching me on the live stream, right, on one of your big screen TVs. That always gets me excited. I'm not going to lie, guys. I'm just kind of checked out myself, not out of the live stream, obviously, but, I was getting I don't let myself get too mad over LSU football. It's just a game, right? But today just really put me over the edge, right? I don't know what we're doing. I just don't. I hate the guys that are actually going out there and playing their tails off. And yeah, I just hate it. What do you mean by this? Why does our players look so small on defense? I don't know. We knew it wasn't going well when your coach is fired. No expectations here. Yeah. Big Al's checked out too. Huh? I might do the same. I might cut it early. But here's the thing. We never cut it early. It's PHL, baby. Let's go. Big Al, your thoughts? You're my prayers. There you go. Harvest, Ulysses, Jonathan. Power Hour, Blue Blood. Y'all are the Blue Bloods. Breaking news, Lane Kiffin has been hired by LSU. Kiffin leaves Ole Miss for LSU. Sage Ryan looked pretty good again. He honestly did. I thought the pass interference on Sage was a little 50-50 as well, but it was the right call. I thought Sage played okay. We just got to use him right. Sage Ryan is not a guy you don't ever blitz, okay? He was a skill guy at Lafayette. Like, he has the ball in his hands more often than not when he played at LCA. So why not give him the opportunity? Now, I don't think he's going to be like Tyrann Mathieu, but I think you kind of sort of have to use him the same way you use Tyrann, right? That's something else that we tend to forget about blitzing. It's not only the disguise aspect of it, but when you blitz somebody, okay, it is a faster player going after the quarterback almost every time, right? Because when you blitz, the athlete that is chasing the quarterback is a better athlete than any of your four defensive linemen more often than not, right? So, there you go. Carvis, good luck with those PhD papers. There you go. Pundits are saying we're now losing in the bye week. Sage is an elite athlete. So let's finish up the poll question here. Will LSU reach 6 wins? Yeah. No. Look. %58 of you say no. Cole wants to talk about Jack Bash. I'm down, right? Once again, even though there's 93 people, there's still quite a bit. I am getting a lot of comments. I'm trying to get to as many of them as I possibly can. please super chat. That obviously supports the channel, but I go immediately to your super chat. Exactly. At this point, LSU has to pay for premium. Yeah, Jack Besh had another good game today, Cole. That last catch was just so ridiculous, man. It really is. So, yeah. What? Let's see. Oh my God. Yeah. Right when I said that, I'm getting a bunch of comments. We'll go straight to this. Clanton. Thank you so much. I deeply appreciate it, Nan. Let me see. I think, hold on. Was that you that sent me a Venmo this week? Let me see. I want to show you some love, man, for putting a roof over my head, which is essentially what you're doing. I really do appreciate it. Let me see. It was you. Is that you, Buzz B.H. Clanton? Thank you for, you know what, that Venmo came out of nowhere. That really made my day. I was having a rough day too because I was going through some of the things I have to get ready. So for those that don't know, we do have the live stream tomorrow night at 7 p.m. Central, our film study. But yeah, I do have the dental surgery. So the dental surgery will be Wednesday morning. So I will be out of commission Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday of next week. So yeah. So everyone show Buzz some love. I think this is your first live stream, Buzz. I think you've been here for a few live chats. So JJ, Mick, everyone show Buzz some love. There you go, man. Buzz, I appreciate you, big dog. Thank you so much. Lit like wit. I like how Nuss sat in the pocket and hit Batch in the middle of the field. Yeah, you know, I don't know if starting Nuss versus Alabama is the best thing. No, you're the best, Buzz. I know it's cool, right? It's really cool. Get to hang out with me and Joey B in the background. Which, by the way, 1 for 10, 2 for 15, 3 for 20, right there. So if you want booger bands, 1 for 10, 2 for 15, 3 for 20. The next person that gets booger bands, let's see, which Joe Burrow card are we going to give away? I have a few Burrows in here. Let me pull one of these out. Let me see. Haley, you okay, babe? She fell? You okay, baby? Boom. Wait, what the heck? Let me see this real quick. Let's give this one out. I gave one of these out last week. Let's get this one out. Okay, so if you don't have your booger bands yet, you can join the Booger Band Club with JJ. 1 for 10, 2 for 15, 3 for 20. And the next booger band order for the 3 for 20, I'm hooking you up with this Joe Burrow rookie card right here. Let me see. This is is this Chronicles? No, this isn't Chronicles. This one's Chronicles. This is Luminance, I think. Either way, Joe Burrow rookie card to the next booger band buyer. 1 for 10, 2 for 15, 3 for 20. And I will be sending you 3 booger bands. And you join the Booger Band Club. You know you want to. Oh, you just Venmo'd your bands order? There you go, Johnny. Well, Johnny, you know what's funny, Johnny? I emailed you a few weeks ago. So, Johnny, congratulations, Johnny. Oh, man. Graylin, you want booger bands too? There you go, man. There you go. There you go, Johnny. Well, Johnny is the winner of the Joe Burrow card. Congratulations, Johnny. Good stuff. And I know where you live. Johnny, I think you're already a member of the Booger Band Club. I love it, man. Graylin, you want some Booger Bands? I think I have your address as well already. Okay. I need it for my boo. I got you, man. So you want 2? I got you, Graylin. Good stuff. I think I do have your address already. Nuss top 10 all time. I love it. So, Johnny, I do have your email and address already, so I know where to send it. And Graylin, you follow me on Instagram and all that stuff. And Graylin, I think I've sent you some. No, I think I've sent you some as well, so I might already have your address. But both of you, obviously, send me your address again. It makes it a lot easier. And not here, but on a personal message, and I will mail out the Booger Bands. There you go. Chris, welcome. No O-line, subpar QB, no running backs, average wide receiver. That's true. Let's see. Write this down. Nuss has your attention. Let's go, Cody. Let's go. Let's go. Nuss had one shot, made 3 unbelievable passes in one drive. Yeah, you know what's kind of interesting is even in Nuss's misses in his first game versus McNeese, his missed throws were spectacular misses, where like he was putting the ball in tight windows, even though it wasn't the right decision to do so. There's a lot that I liked about Nuss, right? See, Jeff says, I was all about Nuss's throw to neighbors for a touchdown, and also the sideline throw to BTJ. Also had a good sideline throw to Bash. It's good stuff. Let's see. Johnny's getting bug bands. I love it, man. Freaking love it. Nuss has less limitations than Max. True that. Max always underthrows the long ball, does he? If we got Lane, I could see him trying to get Rattler in the portal. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I could see that too. I think Spencer Rattler's a better quarterback than Max and Nuss. Gotta get. Johnny, I did send you an email a few weeks ago. You've been out on some of these live streams. Who do you think starts versus the Gumps? I still think Max is going to start. Max, I did. It's ironic, Max. Your name is Max, but you want anyone else other than Max to be the starter? Huh? Yeah. I would start Max versus the Gumps, and then let Nuss start versus ULM. I think that would be the best course of action. Also, something else. I mean, I don't think Max would enter the portal if Nuss started. I just don't think that's in his repertoire right now. But yeah, I would start Max versus Bama and then go to Nuss in the next game versus ULM, no matter what happens with Max versus Alabama. Okay. Get Lane and use Lane to get Manning. They need to make that happen under the table now. So I watched Arch Manning this past Friday or last night, and he's really good. Don't get it twisted. He's really, really talented, and he's a Manning, right? I grew up a huge Peyton Manning fan. I don't know exactly why. I think part of why I like Peyton Manning so much is it taught me, and Peyton Manning, of course, was 6'5", so he had elite athletic traits, but he didn't have a cannon and he couldn't run, right? So the one thing Peyton Manning taught me at a young age was how much smarter I needed to be in every sport I played in order for me to play, right? Because I was a 5'7", 195 to 205 pound, chubby. I was the only kid on my ninth grade basketball team that couldn't touch the net. I had no hops. I had no vertical leap. I had no 40-yard dash. I ran maybe a 5.5. I was so slow. I'm still to this day the slowest starter in the history of my high school soccer team. I have no top end speed. I am as least athletic of a person as you can find. And the one thing Peyton Manning taught me is you have to know every nook and cranny of every game that you played. And that was the only reason I was able to play. So that was a big reason why, because Peyton was just so much smarter than everyone on the field. Now, I wasn't the smartest Peyton in any of my respective sports, but it did force me to look at the athletes that I wanted to emulate myself after. One of those guys was like Andrea Pirlo, Xavi in soccer. Those guys weren't fast. They weren't strong. They were small people, but they just knew everything, right? Ark put 52 on Ole Miss. True. They have a better play caller, too. And they have an actual dual threat elite athlete at quarterback in KJ Jefferson. I'll address the Tomlin thing one last time, okay? It's been the most popular name. There's always one exotic name for every live chat, okay? A few weeks ago it was Eric Bieniemy, right? Mike Tomlin's in the same category as Eric Bieniemy. They have some of the best jobs in the NFL. And both of them, well, Mike Tomlin is an NFL head coach, all right? And the same thing goes for Joe Brady. Same thing goes for Kellen Moore. Not really Joe Brady, but Kellen Moore. Eric Bieniemy is going to get an NFL head coaching job, and he will be the head coach of the Kansas City Chiefs next season. Okay, I think Andy Reid will retire. He's had health issues. He's got a nasty legal situation coming up with his son that involves the Chiefs. Eric Bieniemy will be the head coach of the Chiefs, right? Also, Mike Tomlin has one of the best jobs on the planet, okay? Not just in this sport, but in all the professional sports, is a head coach of the Steelers, which has the steadiest, least dramatic ownership group out of any major professional franchise you will find. Mike Tomlin will not leave that organization. I don't know if there's a single football coach that would, right? Now, you could use LSU to get a raise, but I just don't see it happening. I just don't see it happening, okay? Now, I would approach him, okay? I would see what his interest would be, but he makes what is his salary now? Isn't it north of $8 million a year? Yeah, he makes $8 million a year, okay? Why? Someone tell me why, okay? Why? Why? Do you think Max would work in Kiffin's offense? I don't. Well, that's a good question, TJ. I think Lane could make any quarterback put up some decent numbers. But the bottom line is, I understand that, I've gotten this message a lot as well. We need to get Lane Kiffin because that gives us our best shot of getting Arch Manning. Okay. What I think happens, though, as a program is you should never, ever. Now, out of any compliment I would ever give Nick Saban, it's this one, right? Nick Saban has never made any one player the centerpiece of his program, right? Okay, we are about an hour 35 into it. I'm telling you this right now, okay? A lot of people are going to misconstrue what I say, right? But one of the worst things that ever happened to Les Miles, okay, who is already hard-headed enough, okay? One of the worst things that ever happened to Les Miles was Leonard Fournette because of this, okay? Leonard Fournette wasn't overrated. He wasn't bad. In fact, he's one of the best LSU players of all time. No, he's definitely in the top 20, okay, LSU football players ever, right? And he's probably the number one running back at LSU ever. But the reason why Leonard Fournette was not a good thing for Les Miles was because Les Miles thought he could just hand the ball to Leonard Fournette and that be the centerpiece of your team, okay? He thought that that is all he needed to do, which it made a lot of sense because Leonard Fournette was the best high school running back prospect ever, right? But that is the opposite of what you should do. You should work even harder to build a better offense around Leonard Fournette, right? The most incredible thing that Leonard Fournette ever did was live up to the expectations because there's more that happen that meets the eye when it comes to Leonard Fournette because part of the issue was that Leonard Fournette thought that or Les Miles thought, okay, who cares if Anthony Jennings is my quarterback? We have number 7. When the exact opposite is true. He should have tried to better that quarterback position a lot quicker, right? So, you know, I can't say it enough, right? And that's part of LSU's. So when it comes to we should get Coach X that gives us the best shot at Arch, that's not why Lane Kiffin should be your number one candidate. Now, Lane Kiffin is my number one candidate, but it's not because of anything that has to do with Arch Manning. It's because Lane Kiffin has a system that a lot of quarterbacks want to play in. Okay. Do you have an unknown dark horse candidate? That's a good question, Johnny. There's a couple of guys that I think are head coach material, right? Let's see, an unknown dark horse candidate. You know what's funny, Johnny? I like Matt Campbell a lot. If this were last year and this opening was open last year, all of my chat rooms would be LSU's got to go get Matt Campbell, right? Because, you know, he was the sexy name. Even though he lost to UL, Iowa State was one of the more interesting teams last year. Okay. So Matt Campbell's a very interesting name. And I think there's a lot of young, talented coaches out there, right? So as far as like dark horse candidates are concerned, yeah, you know, there's some other names that interest me, but that's part of the issue as well, Johnny, is, you know, if you start thinking dark horse candidates, it's like, okay, if it gets to that point, that means LSU, the search didn't go as good as we thought it was going to, right? Okay, what has Kiffin won? Well, he beat our tails today. Lane Kiffin also turned FAU around. Lane Kiffin also was the offensive coordinator of a national championship winning team. Lane Kiffin also great at fourth down decision making, elite offensive system, outside the box thinker. Kids want to play for him. Kiffin has been coaching how long at how many different schools? Okay. Inexperience, a good thing, right? So yeah. I just don't understand. I just don't understand the Lane why people are so worried about Lane Kiffin. You know, no off the field nefarious issues. I mean, nothing criminal. Uh, Plus, it weakens one of your SEC West rivals. Okay. I take my Kiffin hate back. Max, you think if Brady retires after this year, Byron Leftwich would take the LSU job? He's my number one. He turned Jameis Winston into a 5K yard QB plus 30 touchdowns. Yeah, once again, I just think Byron Leftwich's going to get an NFL job. I really do. I see a lot of NFL coaches being fired and or retired over the next years, right? Or over this next year, excuse me. Okay, so take Eric Bieniemy for instance, right? Once again, I'll go back to that outside the box opinion. Eric Bieniemy, he takes over when Andy Reid retires after this year. Just a hunch. Same thing if Tom Brady retires, Max. I think Bruce Arians is also going to retire. He's also older. I also know Bruce Arians. I think Bruce Arians is the oldest coach in the NFL. It's either him or Belichick. I think Bruce Arians also retires soon, and I think Byron Leftwich takes that NFL offensive coordinator job to the NFL head coaching job. I think Joe Brady takes an NFL head coaching job soon. And I understand Kellen Moore's a name that you guys have brought up a few times. Jerry Jones will fire Mike McCarthy if it means to keep Kellen Moore as your head coach. Okay. Let's see. Got a Ronnie Prude reference. Again, who does Lane bring as his defensive coordinator? That's going to be the issue, right? Because if he does want to bring DJ Durkin over, I don't know if that's necessarily what LSU would want to do, knowing DJ Durkin's history. So yeah, Bieniemy's not getting an NFL head coaching job. Y'all been saying that the last 4 years. Well, I mean, he keeps getting interviews. It's going to eventually happen. If you keep getting interviewed for jobs, somebody in the NFL is going to take you. If you're an Andy Reid disciple, someone's eventually going to do it, right? I think it was down to him and Brandon Staley of the Chargers. Brandon Staley's been the best NFL head coach this year. So he lost out to a really good candidate. It could just be bad luck. Also, part of the issue with Bieniemy is he's coaching so late into the season where he can't actually get a good interview and actually leave for another job. So but I think at some point Bieniemy's going to get a job. He's obviously very talented. I just don't think an NFL offensive coordinator is leaving the NFL for an LSU job, unless that offensive coordinator is someone that is not at all considered for an NFL head coaching job. If the Panthers keep sucking this year, could you realistically see Brady for head coach of LSU? I think maybe. I don't know. I would like to once again. this specific question needs to be asked of Ed Orgeron. Who actually makes the defensive game plan? Who actually makes the defensive calls, right? Because it is important to know if what today I just have a tough time believing Durante and Bo Pelini make the same defensive mistakes, right? Brady hates the recruiting aspect of college football. Once again, I would too, right? Now, actually, I take this back. I'm not in the NFL, so I think going from the NFL where you're dealing with adults, you don't have to do this recruiting BS. Recruiting sucks. It flat out sucks, right? Especially if you go from dealing with adults at the NFL level down to the college level. Okay. I don't know. I don't know. I think Joe Brady would be a better college coach than the NFL. Woodward's already got his guy, Lincoln Riley. I hope you're right. Who do you think's realistically going to be the LSU's head coach? Well, Josh, that's the thing, right? Realistically is a lot different than actually looking at candidates that would say immediately yes. So if Billy Napier is offered the job, he's going to take it, right? So that is obviously realistic. We don't know if Lincoln Riley or Mel Tucker or any of these elite names, right? Now, this is the biggest response you'll hear, and it's a valid reason. It's something that I brought up in my Mel Tucker video. Well, Mel Tucker hasn't won anything, and that's partially true. But the one thing that I found shocking in my Mel Tucker deep dive from a few days ago was how much money he actually makes per season. Okay. He is the 13th highest paid coach in college football. He makes $1.5 million more dollars per year than Mike Gundy does at Oklahoma State, who's been a top 10 coach in college football for quite some time now. So once again, when you start saying who can realistically leave where they are to go to LSU, well, Mel Tucker could realistically do that, but doesn't make a lot of sense. When Michigan State, the one thing that I heard from Michigan State viewers that watched that video earlier this week, the one thing they all said was something else that I didn't mention in the video, is that Michigan State has deep pockets around their football program, and they are all around Mel Tucker. Remember, Michigan State. Okay, so Mel Tucker was making less than $3 million a year at Colorado and had a losing season. And Michigan State offered him $5 million in his first year and $5.5 million in his second. Okay, so think about getting a less than $3 million salary and a school like Michigan State who really wanted you, who has an athletic director who Mel Tucker loves a lot. I just don't see him leaving. I would like him. He's in my top 10 candidates. He's not in my top 5, but he's right there. So, when it gets down into who could realistically leave, would Lincoln Riley want to leave? I don't know Lincoln Riley would want to leave. Michigan State doesn't have LSU's pocket, so maybe they don't, but I'm telling you, the one thing Michigan State fans said repeatedly was they're going to do whatever it takes to keep Mel Tucker. And that's the thing. Do you really want to get in a bidding war with a coach who has one winning season? I don't know. So that's where realistic becomes, and that's probably the question I get a lot as well. Who do you realistically seeing as the LSU head coach? The only guy that for sure you could 100,000% know will take the LSU job when he's offered is Billy Napier. And even then, he would probably think about it because he's turned down other SEC jobs, but I would 99.9% say he would leave for that job. I just don't know. I don't know if Byron Leftwich, if you went to him and say, look, we want you to be the next LSU head coach. I don't know if he does that. I really don't. I really, really don't. Can't stop now. I don't know what our highest number was for this stream. I think our highest number was like 150 something earlier for tonight's live stream. We're normally in like the 200s or 300s, but that's the thing. When you have an uncompetitive game, people want to turn it off and go do something else, right? If the game is at least close and competitive, people want to go to the live stream. But that's something that really pissed me off, right? Is because I just from being a regular viewer, I just want the game. I just want LSU to be competitive. Yeah, DRC, I could see that, but I think UL fans would be like, okay, look, we get it. Carl, what's good, man? Carl the cat. Do you really want to give Lane Kiffin $10 million a year? That's not what it would take, though, right? So Lane makes $5 million a year, right? So he makes $500K a year less than Mel Tucker does. Does Lane leave where he is now to take LSU for 7.5 or 8 million a year? Probably. Carl says I'll be changing my profile pic soon. I mean, look, it's okay if you like Ed. Once again, I say it 1,000 times. I know I'm very critical of him. I like Ed, right? But what he's done over the past 2 seasons is so irresponsible. Okay. I think Lane makes 4.5 million. Or Scott put a large amount of money on the table. Who? That's the thing. I think it's Lincoln, and I say he leaves because he realizes OU has a ceiling. I'll tell you this, Pegasus. If you are a Lincoln Riley fan, today really, really was a good day for you because they barely beat Kansas. And a big reason why they were so bad versus Kansas was they could not stop them. Oklahoma looked very deficient on the defensive side of the ball today. So, yeah, let's see. Let's go to Antonio. The reason the team regressed so much today, had high hopes after last weekend, but I think what we saw today is a true team for the rest of the season. That's good. Love the gunslinger attitude he had today. Good stuff. What about the coach at Notre Dame? That is not a culture fit. Brian Kelly and LSU does not fit. That would not work, right? It just wouldn't. Don't get it twisted. Brian Kelly's really good. But yeah, that I don't think BK would want this, right? Huh? Let's see what we do, baby. Let's go. JJ's got me on the big screen. I love it. Yeah, Lincoln Riley with a good defensive coordinator. I think Lincoln would think about it. Look, how about this? How about the Lincoln Riley and Caleb Williams package deal? I would love that. Yeah, I think Aranda takes the job. I do. I'm at a birthday party listening in my ear like at least you still get invited to parties. Once you get my age, you don't get invited to parties. I don't remember the last party I was invited to. In fact, it's my buddy's 1-year wedding anniversary, and I think last year, I think his wedding was like the last party I was invited to. Which is fine. Miranda's built different. Big chipper. I love it. Starting to get a lot of questions flying in again. Here we go. Do you prefer an offensive coach or defensive coach? Once again, if I don't answer your question, I automatically go to your topic with the Venmo, Cash App, or Super Chat. We still got a few more booger bands to sell tonight. 1 for 10, 2 for 15, 3 for 20. We'll hook you up with an LSU card. Might hook you up with the Joe Burrow card. Once again, congrats to Johnny, the winner of our Joe Burrow rookie. I got a few other Joe Burrows I'll send out. Let's see. Miranda can't recruit. I don't know about that. Shelly says it's tough to get out of bed to do road work at 5 a.m. when you've been sleeping in silk pajamas. That's true, and I think some of the money and other things got to Orgeron. I also don't think it's just that. I just think because the issue is that LSU wins quite a few of their games last year if they have a slightly different defensive scheme, right? All right, so Robbie, good show. You work hard. Lane or Lincoln? Okay, so if I had to choose between the two of them, a large piece of me would still say Lane, but you'd have to go with Lincoln Riley based on his track record of success. He's obviously more stable. The one thing though about Lincoln is he can rub you the wrong way. He is very terse with media. Now I'll tell you this. You won't find more friendly media than the LSU media. It's just true. Most of the media supports their coaches. It's a little bit different at some other college programs, and just college programs in general have softer media than in the pros. But yeah, Lincoln Riley today wasn't great. Obviously, going scoreless against Kansas. But I could see Lincoln leaving Norman to go to LSU. I could see it happen. So obviously, I think it'd be irresponsible for me to say Lane is better than Lincoln Riley at this point. But I do think that gap is a little bit closer than one would think, right? I just think Lane is special. I really do. And once again, there's some childish things that he does, such as the Bama game, that will drive you up a wall. And I totally get it. And I know a lot of you don't like the Twitterisms and some of the other stuff. Every time I see Lane, though, I see him out coaching the other team with schemes and finding open guys, right? How many coaches run the ball on 3rd and long and it works, right? He is very unconventional, outside the box thinker. So yeah, So yeah, and Mike, I agree with you, man. So yeah, Roby, I would say Lincoln Riley would be. I didn't list him as my number one candidate, but I probably should. And I think the Kansas game, I mean, I know they were held scoreless in the first half, but a big reason why is that Kansas had long drives in the first half of the game. And for those that are just joining us or didn't get to see earlier today, Kansas dominated most of that game against Oklahoma, and then they just ran out of gas. So yeah, I would probably say between those two, I would say Lincoln. But the one good thing about Lane Kiffin, even though things are changing in the SEC, is that if you hire Lane Kiffin, you're hiring away one of your rivals' really good coaches. So we'll see. Plus, also, if you had Lane Kiffin or if you had Lincoln Riley, if Lincoln Riley was the coach of LSU, Caleb Williams would have chosen Oklahoma over LSU and Maryland, or he would have chosen LSU over Maryland and Oklahoma, right? I know a lot of people say, well, and it kind of goes against what I'm saying as far as, the LSU defense is such a big issue right now. But the issue is that the coaching is so bad on that side of the ball. I really do feel this way. I think if you, and I know this is going to sound very, very wild, but I think if you brought in a brand new defensive staff, okay, for this next or for this game against Ole Miss, let's just say on Sunday, all of LSU's defensive staff was fired, and they just put together 5 retired college football assistants and 1 defensive coordinator. They would have come up with a better plan than what we put out there today, right? Because any defensive coordinator, I am telling you this right now, it is the exact same thing as the Mississippi State game, okay? Any defensive coordinator would have told you that you can't play man coverage wire to wire versus a Lane Kiffin coach team. You just can't do it. They're going to drag route you to death, right? So, yeah, I just don't. I know a lot of people, Roby and everyone else that's commenting on this, I know a lot of people worry about Lincoln Riley and Lane Kiffin's defense. But whatever they get defensively is going to be better than what we have defensively now, right? And I do think it is more important to make sure the offensive side of the ball is better. I'm not saying that I want to fire all the assistant coaches. It's just, honestly, I just think if we would have just had brand new coaches on the defensive side of the ball, the first thing a defensive coach would have come in there and say was, well, we're playing against a really good play caller, okay? We can't run man coverage the entire game. But we did it. Off topic, but I picked UGA to win the Natty before the season. I know their defense is great, but they have a disaster waiting to happen at QB. What about you, Carter? Okay, yeah, I don't think Georgia's going to go undefeated. I don't. I think in order to go undefeated now, you have to have something special at quarterback. And I obviously Stetson Bennett is not that. I know they might get JT Daniels back. I don't know how much better he is than Stetson Bennett. They obviously have a good running game. They obviously have a really good offensive line. Overall, their coaching staff is just really good. But I think Georgia will probably still win the national championship. They just don't have anything at quarterback, though. Stetson Bennett's decent, and you can win a national championship with them at quarterback. But yeah, let's see here. There you go, Mick. Good to thanks for watching. Let's see. Alabama up 21-14 on Tennessee. At least that game is close for the first time in for God knows how long. Roby, you're right about the defense. We should have mixed it up. The coverage and the blitz. We haven't blitzed since 2019. Dave Aranda special. I honestly, this is also part of, I think, Ed Orgeron's problem. Okay. So many coaches tend to do this. Okay. Wait, let me see. Cool. You're right about the defense. They should have mixed things up in coverage and blitz and blitz. So here's something that, okay. Here's my theory about the LSU defense. Okay. If you want to know my serious, deep theory, okay, because there's no way that we think what's going to work is going to work, right? There's no way that any rational coach. I think part of the issue is Ed Orgeron is so dead set on proving Dave Aranda wrong. He's so dead set on not having to look. The one thing Ed Orgeron should have done after the 2020 season was say, look, we can play a four-man front. We just can't do it the entire game. We have to show other teams. Hold on. I thought I heard something. We have to show other teams different looks. I think, JJ, we'll see you, my guy. We have to show teams different looks, right? I think Ed Orgeron wanted to prove himself as something that he's not so badly that he doesn't mind going against basic structure or just basic common sense, which is why I think we run the defense that we run, right? But what happened to Mason Smith? He's playing defensive end right now. They need to put him back at D tackle. The problem is LSU's so thin right now. Well, they say they're thin. You know, they have Savion Jones and some other guys. Yeah, Max and Pegasus are sharp people. Yeah, I think Mason just needs to play defensive tackle. But then again, I just think the way that LSU uses their ends is just not good. Let's see. Yeah, that could be the case. SipG, it does kind of feel that way. Look this up. I just had one of my favorite analytics guys reach out to me. Oh, I got it all the way back to this. Okay. Let me look this up really quickly. I want to look at one of LSU's punting decisions. Let's go to this. Carter, who are your top 5 players still playing on LSU right now, and how different is it than the beginning of the year? Let's see. Top 5 players right now. Obviously, Jack Best has got to be on there. He's been the most consistent. I would still say, let's see, what is this? Is there something on my head? I don't know. I guess I'm just freaking out. I would say Jaquelin Roy is somewhere on there, just based off the Florida performance alone. But no, that aside, I would say Damon Clark, Jack Besh. At home, Ed Ingram. On the road, not so much. And then I would still say Cade York, even though he missed a big one today from 55. And that's about it. I don't know. Flott. Yeah, definitely Flott. And yeah, that would be my top 5: York, Flott, Clark, Besh, and TDP. Why not? Honestly, you can make the case G for Mashburn. I love me some Mason Smith though. Yeah, Flott's definitely up there. Flott could be number 1, honestly. If you want to go most consistent, it's probably Flott or Clark. Neither one. I don't know why Mike Jones doesn't play over Baskerville. That's something else I don't quite get. Once again, I don't know anything about football. Put him at 3 tech, let him dominate. Exactly. I do, Josh, simply because they pay him so much. But they play Georgia next week. If you beat Georgia, everything's forgotten. Michael, this is a good question. Why does our defense look deathly afraid to tackle? I've never seen an LSU defense this soft and scary. So, Michael, this is where it gets very interesting, right? So, let me see. Is there anything on my face? I keep thinking there's like some white stuff. Yeah, there's like some fuzz. I don't even know. I think I'm losing my mind. I'm not gonna lie. Today really was frustrating. Michael, so LSU's got, and this would be very interesting. So LSU's got player tracking data, and what that data can tell you is how much did they run, right? So LSU's defense ran a lot today, right? Playing man coverage, running from left to right. Okay. So when you are, and once again, there's still no excuse to tackle as badly as they tackled today. But you know what's really funny? One of LSU's historically great, especially over the last 2 years, one of LSU's most historically great tackling performances came against Mississippi State, right? So despite playing despite playing 88 plays against Mississippi State, which is a lot, 88 is an ungodly amount of plays, okay? Despite playing 88 plays versus Mississippi State, LSU only missed 10 tackles, okay? So here's the issue with man coverage, right? All right. I know I've made this comment quite a bit, okay? I want to go down the layers, okay, of why the LSU defensive scheme was so bad today. And you guys saw it today, all right? There's a few things that happens when you play man coverage underneath for the entire game. Number one, it is very easy for the quarterback to read the defense. Number two, when you're rushing the same 4 guys every time at the same exact pass rush angles, it's a lot harder to not only sack the quarterback, it's also a lot easier for that quarterback to scramble and pick up big gains. It's also very easy to run a draw with your running back underneath, which is why LSU gave up 3 third and long handoffs. Also, and this to me is the most important thing, when you play man coverage, it's really hard to get big hits, okay? Because you're chasing someone down. So as a receiver, you don't have to worry about running over the middle. All you have to do is beat the guy in a foot race across the field. That's all you have to do in man coverage, right? Or when you're playing man coverage. So it's easier for a receiver. Whereas if you're going up against zone coverage, you kind of have to read the defense. You got to sit in a window. Also, it's easier to tackle when you play zone coverage because, number one, more than likely the receiver is going to be underneath you. And number two, you're not having to sprint across the field and chase someone down. So it's kind of what Peter says here. The defense has had different coordinators, and the defense looks legit the exact same. Okay. Bo Pelini, as we all know, the game has passed him, wasn't a good hire. Okay. I don't know too much about Durante Jones prior to this year. We don't really know a whole lot about him as a defensive coordinator. Okay. But these are two diametrically different people with different backgrounds, personally and professionally, as far as their history in coaching. Why on earth does the defense do the same thing it did from the year before? Is it Corey Raymond? Is it Corey Raymond going to Ed Orgeron and Durante and saying, look, we need to run man coverage the entire game? Is it Blake Baker? I don't know. Once again, I don't know. I'm not behind those doors. But there has to be someone in the building, okay? And this is where having too many yes men around you could be an issue. That could be an issue. There has to be someone. This is a hundreds of millions of dollars depend on LSU football, right? Not only as far as the money that they make, but the money that, everyone could make around LSU football, okay? There has to be someone that is pounding the table saying, why aren't we doing more rush 3 drop 8s? Why are we the lowest blitz percentage team in the country? Why do we think running man coverage against great offensive coordinators is going to work when it doesn't ever work? Why? Why are we doing this? There has to be someone in that building. There's no way. There's no way some idiot with a monobrow on YouTube, I shaved it, by the way. There's no way that I can see how big of an issue this is. It doesn't make any sense. I am not smart enough to see this, right? But that's the thing. And my thing, coverage is one of my weaknesses, right? But this is where I disagree with you, Robert. It's not a second or third string issue. Now it exacerbates, I don't think I use that word, right? It makes the problems worse, but we use the same game plan when we had Derek Stingley and Elias Ricks healthy last year and versus UCLA, and it still didn't work. It still did not work. And that's the issue. It doesn't matter who you have out there. You can't do this. You simply can't do it. Now, I do agree, Robert. It's worse when you don't have the guys that you normally have out there, but it's, it's one of those things. Yeah, Roby, but the difference here, though, is players just want to play in a scheme that works. Okay, so LSU was in a 3-4 under Aranda, and they're really good. Dave Aranda was really good in each of his seasons, and we haven't been good in this 4-3, right? And by the way, our best defensive performance of the last 2 seasons, outside of one dominant performance against Vanderbilt and another dominant performance against Texas A&M, our best defensive performance came when we rushed 3 and dropped 8 versus Mississippi State, right? Well, all right, guys. We'll keep this train moving if we get any super chats. If not, we're going to hang out for about 5 more minutes. Get your questions in. I'm going to go catch the end of the Bama game. Or at least do it some. I'm not a huge fan of the 3-3-5. But at least show it. At least show it. It's not hard to show it, right? It's really not. Players aren't stupid. Like they can learn new concepts really quickly. So if you want to gonna go to Zippy's, Cliff, without me? If you want to support the channel, click that link right there. That is the link to our t-shirts. Okay. If you want to see my top 3 candidates, boom, subscribe to my Substack and Substack. There you go. My top 3 head coaching candidates. You can subscribe to my Substack right there. So if you can't buy a shirt today, if you're one of the 87 people, it's not much. Just go to that link right there and please subscribe to my newsletter. It does help out with the channel. Does it hurt recruiting the kind of players by changing defenses? It kind of does, Roby. But, I do think one thing I think LSU did a bad job of is, and Ed Orgeron is partially to blame for this, they put too much of an emphasis on getting as many defensive linemen as they possibly can. I used to be of the belief that, defensive linemen, and I'm a defensive lineman. I used to think that you need to get as many of those guys as you possibly can because, the trenches are very important. But LSU actually lacks numbers in their back seven, right? That position has been under-recruited to a certain extent. So, yeah. I could definitely use some Zippies right now. I could definitely use a sponsor. So, Zippies, if you're watching, I'd love to do a show from Zippies in a few weeks. Or a show from somewhere. There you go. We just got a Substack sign up from D Slang. Thank you. Appreciate that. All right, guys. Tomorrow night, 7 p.m. Central. It's going to be painful. I need you right here for a film study review. Okay, I don't know how long it's going to be, but it's going to be fun. All right, so tomorrow night, 7 p.m. Central. We'll see you right there. Go enjoy seeing Tennessee upset Alabama. It is. Come on, Lane. My new top 3, if you are here to the end of the 85 right now, James Franklin's out of my top 3. I'm going to give you a little bit of a nugget. I was going to say before the video. My number 1 candidate is now Lincoln Riley. I think he'd be a little bit more interested after seeing his defense today. Lincoln Riley, Lane Kiffin, 1A, 1B, and Dave Aranda is right there. And then, you know what? I'm going to put Mel Tucker right there. I'm going to put Mel Tucker and Napier right there, right? But I think you got to make a few more phone calls to the elite guys before you get to Aranda, Tucker, or Napier, okay? It is Power Hour LSU. Boom! Shout out to our top super chatter. I wish it told me who the top super chatter was. Josh was our top halftime super chatter. And round of applause to Michael Roby, our top super chatter. I appreciate it. Thank you so much. And we'll see you tomorrow, 7 p.m. Central. Let's go.